Program. How are you? It's Rowan Hand. I'm your host. You're my guests. Very, very welcome in. The welcome mat is out. Step over. Yeah, seat. Make yourself comfortable. Say hello to Tom Jennings. How are you, Tom?
Good morning, Rowan.
Always good to see you, Tom.
Thank you for
welcome again. It's about a year since I saw you last.
It will be just about that, yes.
And it's coming into your time of year. It's a time of traditionality.
Yes.
And Tom, you're part of a coterie of good friends in this part of the world who love the traditional Catholic Mass, the Latin Mass.
That would be a very excellent description of it.
Yeah.
And the word tradition, now there's a lovely word, isn't it?
Tradition.
It makes you think of culture and music, song and dance.
Yeah.
But
dare I say, ad deum qui latificat juventutem meam.
very good.
That's the beginning of the Catholic Latin
Yes.
Mass. I was once an altar boy.
Intribuat altari Dei. Yeah,
Well, that gets intellectual there. I lose out at that point.
Oh, well, we're not intellectual, but far from it. But as in the word tradition, it's a lovely, conjures up lovely feelings, except when it comes to the faith, where it beggars belief how much it is met with contempt by our contemporary conciliar bishops.
Why is that? Because surely it's a diversity of worship is a good thing. The Mass that evolved since Vatican II is safe, it's well established, it's there. Anything you would do should complement that, I would have thought.
Well, I fear not, and I feel that we're viewed with contempt simply because we are a threat. We would be the conscience, perhaps, of many a bishop in Ireland and worldwide, indeed. If we look at the word tradition, what it means, it comes from the Latin tradio, and it means to deliver. And in the Catholic sense, it means to deliver from the deposit of the faith. And the deposit of the faith died when the last apostle died. They deposited the faith that was given to them by Christ, God Almighty Himself. And they were given the order to go spread the word, go teach ye all nations.
Yes.
Now, all the saints were loyal to the faith through tradition, via tradition. It's a real word, it has real meaning, and it has gravity. So for us, we view it with all that seriousness that it deserves, to deliver the faith. That would, to me, I would interpret that as to mean, I must deliver to my children and those around me what I have received from my parents, my foreparents, my grandparents.
What your grandparents,
Yes.
maybe what your parents would have received, would have practiced, was very much the Latin Mass.
Yes, and my grandparents and my great-grandparents and St. Patrick.
Right back
Right
to
back,
Patrick
it was the exact same Mass. In fact,
Mass rocks around the land.
well, lovely, it's something to be proud of, part of our heritage. Every year, 15th of August, to celebrate the Feast of the Assumption, the Mother of God, to celebrate our culture and the family, which is now under attack. We go to the Mass Rock in Ballyholland. And they come from all Ireland and abroad to our Mass, and we have a lovely day.
And do the other lot allow you in? The fellows who don't like the traditional Latin Mass? Well,
it would be quite obvious that they prefer we weren't there, but they cannot stop us. But we are going there for the very same reason as our forefathers went in the penal days. We are there because of our loyalty to the holy sacrifice of the Mass. And the Mass that we celebrate there, or I assist with the celebrant, the priest, is the very same Mass, word for word, from beginning to end, as our forefathers did. Others go to that same sacred place to say the Mass, which is based upon the Anglican Book of Prayer, which our forefathers went to avoid. Strange that. Very strange indeed. But as I say, we are met with nothing but hostility by the contemporaries in the church. And look at the church.
Yeah.
It's in a mess.
Total mess.
They've lost something.
Well, when I say total mess, there are wonderfully good people in there doing good things. There are good priests.
There'll always be good priests.
Who have fought against the bad and the evil that exists there. But I mean, it brings me back to my original point, that I see you guys as complementary to what's going on in the good of the church. I cannot think of why anyone would fear you in any way and put obstacles in your way.
Well, I wouldn't actually see us maybe as a compliment to the contemporary activities or the conciliar church, but I'd see ourselves as indeed complementary to the faith.
To the faith, yeah.
We are the handful.
You don't like the Mass, is it? That Mass, the normal that you see, the
Novus Ordo.
What is that, Novus
The
Ordo?
Novus, it means the new Mass.
The mass from
the
the conclave. What was it?
Well, it actually comes from Pope Paul VI in 1969. It was brought to him. Really, it was brought to him as a gift from him by 6 Protestant ministers.
My goodness.
They offered the book. 3 of whom were members of a pernicious enemy to the Church, Freemasons. This is well documented, and the Altifani intervention, which advised Pope Paul VI to have nothing to do with this Mass. It is spiritually redundant. They've seen the consequences of such Mass, of the new Mass, in that it was taking something away. We cannot say the new Mass is invalid. It is indeed valid, but
so it's okay. In that sense, it's okay.
Well,
in the sense of the consecration occurring, it's okay.
It's okay, but according to Vatican, 80% of priests no longer believe in the transubstantiation, the changing of the blood, the wine to the blood and the bread to the body. That leaves that's a great concern to me. 80% of priests no longer believe. Now that's a worldwide figure, so that may vary from country and region to region, but it's still scary that 80% of masses are invalid. The other danger I see with the new Mass is the mere fact, well, okay, it's valid that the transubstantiation does perhaps take place, but there's a lot of transgressions. There's not a lot of novelties in the new Mass. Now, St. Paul in his epistle did warn of all things that are novel. And we take to St. Pope Pius X, he also warned against novelties. He described modernism, and this is what we're dealing with here, modernism, and they do call it modernism. He said it was the synthesis of all heresies. In other words, all heresies have been thrown at us at the one time. That was in 1907 he made that remark, and he feared, so that's why he issued his encyclical Pascendi against modernism. So
recently, within the last week, word came from the Vatican that priests were no longer allowed to come from the altar and exchange a sign of peace with a grieving family who were there to requiem Mass. That this was being disregarded. This should not happen. It takes away from the sanctity of the moment. Is that what you're talking about, novelties?
I would call that a novelty, and there's plenty of times for shaking of hands outside Mass, outside the sacred holy place. Moses, when he spoke when God spoke to Moses from the burning bush, he said, take the shoes off thy feet, for the ground upon which you stand is holy. And it was always the sanctuary is always regarded as place of holiness, i.e. sanctuary. Now, we have the shaking in the hands of the sign of peace in Mass. So it's becoming more like a social gathering rather than a place of worship for God.
Do you when you go, where does your Mass take place?
Well, we have been shunned out of the way up into Bestbrick. We had to go find a unit of businesses.
Where were you previously?
We were in above shops in Monaghan Street.
Monaghan Street.
And before that we were in a house.
Yeah.
But
were you ever in a church?
No.
They never let you into a church?
No. Until the motu propria. There is a Latin Mass by a lovely priest up in St. Mary's.
Yeah.
But
is he okay?
Yeah.
If what he does is okay.
Yes, I have a lot of respect for that priest. But the Mass, when you think of the early cathedral, was built for the sacred Mass that I go to. It wasn't built for the Anglican Book of Prayer, which is now basically. Well,
it was built, but its very architecture
was
geared to the old way.
Absolutely. Yet and all, we are denied it. But they will bring in, they'll sell merchandise as in a product. They'll bring in concerts there. They'll have all priests from, or not priests, but preachers from other religions can go up onto the altar. But a priest that would provide me my sacraments is prohibited. Now, why? How can that be okay? How can that a priest who is properly ordained in the true Catholic sense be denied entry to the Newry Cathedral or any church that is built for the sacrifice of the Mass? And they'll use a very common term, bishops throughout the world, you are not in full communion with the Word, with the Church. You're not in full communion. So does that mean we're in some part communion? How can you not be in full? You're either in communion or you're not excommunicated.
Tom, are you, dare I said, maybe some people say the word zealot as a bad word, but are you zealous about this cause?
Well, it would be close to my heart. I love the
Why?
Mass.
What makes it so important to you? What's in your background? What's in your breeding that makes this the thing that you wear as your heart on your sleeve?
It is a realization. It's truth. It's reality. It's the gravity. It's the answer to a lot of problems in the world. When I go to Mass, I'm at the foot of Calvary, where Christ sacrificed himself for the sins of Adam and ourselves, we who have come from Adam.
I suppose I understand that, because certainly if you'd been gathered around the cross at Calvary, you wouldn't have been shaking hands and hugging.
No, you would be...
You would have been focused, you would have been viewing the awfulness of what was occurring.
Absolutely, which was for our guilt. So the Mass is a sacrifice, but today it's presented as a meal. And that is alien to the whole Catholic way of thinking. The Catholic Mass has been rejected by many throughout history, who would be deemed as heretics, and we can name them. But there's Luther, who hated the whole sacrificial nature of the Mass. Cranmer, who was bishop to Henry VIII, hated the Mass. And the funny thing that Cranmer had done, the first thing is after Henry VIII died, who was loyal to the Mass, funny enough, and even though he's in schism, was he smashed the altar rail. He turned us back on the true presence in the tabernacle, God himself, Christ the Son, sacrificed of us. A Mass requires an altar because it's a sacrifice, and it requires a priest. A priest is one who performs the sacrifice. But now they've wrenched the altars away and present them as tables.
Hold that thought, because we need to take a very short break and then back with you for the last 15 minutes of the program.
Okay, so.
Thank you, Tom.
You've reached your destination. Go!
If you would like to watch our shows from the comfort of your home, contact Destination Uri now to get yourself a Roku box. Call us on 028 30 834 010.
Find a smile in all directions. A million miles away, right by your side. Take a look around you. It's right here for you and
The
me.
Keys Newry, where the journey continues.
Ted's Carpets Newry have a large selection of carpets, vinyl, wooden floors, solid, semi-solid, laminate floors and all flooring accessories. All for you to see in our showroom. Based in Newry, our staff have over 50 years of experience in the carpet and flooring industry and will be only too glad to help you choose the right floor covering that suits your needs and your pocket. Don't forget our furniture department, where we stock sofas, beds, bedroom furniture, and everything else your home will need. Looking for a genuine bargain? Give Ted a shout. You won't be disappointed. Distance is no object. No job too big or too small. Commercial and domestic. Unit 1, Carney Hall Business Park, Rathford Island Road, Newry. Telephone 028 308 25782. Check out tedscarpetsnewry.com.
Back, it's Rowan Hand and Tom Jennings. Tom is a proponent of the cause of the Latin Mass, and we've been talking about it here this morning. You made a mention to me there, Tom, about Faith of Our Fathers. It's a very Irish hymn of Catholicism, Faith of Our Fathers. Yes. And the Latin Mass, it all ties in with that kind of philosophy going back through the troubles of Ireland, back to the famine, the redcoats and the Mass rocks. Is it possible, let's think for a moment of somebody across the water. Let's look outside Ireland. Let's look to the land of England and Wales and Scotland.
Yeah.
Have they the same kind of feeling for the traditional Latin Mass?
Much stronger.
Stronger? And are they fated in the same way as you are by bishops? They're tortured as well?
We are under a form of persecution, there's no doubt. You know, they've shown us a way out of the way. And Ireland is where we struggle the hardest. Ireland and Belgium, funny enough, two very strong Catholic countries. But England, this faith is the tradition is more alive. And France, it's doing terribly well. The traditional seminaries are full. They're building more. America, Switzerland, France, you know, it is strong. There's a greater awareness. And I think the faith has fallen victim to its own success here in Ireland, that people relied on the priest. The priest was like the policeman in Ireland. He was, don't question the priest. Well, he'll tell you.
The priest would have come to houses that I know of, and what do you mean? How long are you married now? You're married to, and you've no child yet. This kind of thing went on.
Yeah, well, there was the policeman aspect about the priest, I think, in Ireland. And I think it was unique to Ireland. So people had too much trust in the parish priest. They'd never question, oh, sure, the priest said that. But I think it's good to question. I think it's good to be skeptical. Look into, why am I doing this? Why should we do this? Why is the bishop telling me to do this? And why is the priest behaving?
It's called conscientizing.
Well, that's a new word.
Focusing your conscience. Yes. It came out of the council that people would inform their consciences. They would make themselves knowledgeable about things.
Yes.
They would be skeptical. They would question, and they would then accept. And that acceptance would be a stronger acceptance.
Well, you need also direction. You know, you never hear now of the catechism.
No.
And I do remember receiving the catechism as a child.
Was the first question in the catechism, who is God, or something like that?
Who is God? And God is my Father in heaven.
Oh, yeah,
and why did God make him? God made me to know him, to love him,
and
to serve him. Beautiful. Simple.
Well, the one I
accurate.
Yeah, but I was in scouting as a boy. I was in the Catholic Boy Scouts of Ireland, and it did me nothing but good. It formed my values. And the prayer, I think it was an Aquinas prayer, that with the Scout's prayer, dearest Jesus, teach me to be generous, to love and serve you as you deserve, to give and not to count the cost, to labor and seek no reward. I accept that of knowing that I'm doing what you want me to do. Amen.
That's lovely, genuine charity there.
Yeah, that's a good prayer. The same thing as you were talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
But today now you don't mention prayer, you dare not discuss it. People are easily offended by the mention of God, and they never stop to think that when I meet him, maybe he'll be offended by my indifference.
But Tom, can I ask you if, forgive this question, I'm sure you will, but you're well fit to answer it, but do you dislike them as much as they seem to dislike you?
No, I don't dislike them. I dislike how they go about and what they do and what they do. Simply because they've employed deceit. You know, the new Mass wasn't brought to us in a genuine way. They'll tell us that it came from Vatican II. No, it did not come from Vatican II. It's nowhere in Vatican II did it suggest that we get rid of the Mass. So there's deception. They say that we need a change. Well, people weren't asking for change. People were happy with the Mass. The Masses were full.
They were.
And all of a sudden they're empty now. So
we had a thing. We had a thing in Uri called the Holy Family Confraternity on Tuesday nights, and Father Boyd and Father Campbell would have come out and shoot us all in, and the church on a Tuesday night was chocker-block.
And people did want to go.
Absolutely.
And people wanted to go to the Mass. But now I often hear this term that Mass is boring. I can't get over how Mass can be boring. If you're going to be entertained, perhaps the Mass is boring. But if you're going with a genuine heart to worship and thank and praise God, how can it be boring? But maybe it's lacking substance. And I think, yes, the new Mass lacks substance. There's no preaching of genuine Catholicism.
But a bit hard to listen to the preaching through the prayers of the Mass if you don't understand the language of the Mass.
Well, the Church is more practical than that. The Latin is the official language of the Church, so everything that goes up to God is said in the Latin. But anything that is directed to the congregation is said in the vernacular. In this case, it's the English. So the preaching, the gospel, the epistle would be in the vernacular.
In the English. I see. Yeah.
So,
Tom, is it alone? You have about 60 people. Not you have them, but there are 60 people who enjoy the experience, like you, like-minded souls. It's an uphill struggle.
It is, but we see ourselves, and we have a clear understanding, we are the handful referred to by Our Lady of Fatima. Our Lady of Fatima promised that foretold the faith will be reduced to a handful. Well, I am fortunate enough to be a member of that handful Our Lady referred to. These, according to Our Lady, or according to Lucia, the last seer of Fatima, she died recently, I suppose you could say. She said, oh, I've sort of lost my thread there.
No, she was talking at Fatima about the handful of people who would be entrusted with what you believe to be the sacred message.
Yes, and she referred to these days as the apostasy, and she said, look to chapters 8 and 12. So, you know, we know where we are in the spiritual world, you know. Let's not pretend we know where it's going to end. Nobody knows that. But we have an idea whereabouts we are. So if Sister Lucia said we're in chapters 8 of 12 to the apostasy, well, I would take that seriously. And what does apostasy mean? It means to abandon your faith. And I do see priests who out there, I've come across them, who seem to have apostatized themselves, and bishops. So
interesting times, you know.
Terrible times.
Terrible times.
Because
what you regard as a threat to the future of the faith.
A threat to our whole society, which is based upon Christianity. Every moral is under attack. The whole idea of family is under attack. What constitutes a family? They're changing the meaning. What constitutes a marriage is under attack. What is right is under attack. And people have tried to live good and holy lives, which is difficult, because none of us are saints. I'm a sinner. But when you try to lead a holy life, you're ridiculed.
Oh yeah,
you'll
be hugely pleased that, for talking about family life, that Francis is going to Philadelphia next year to the World Conference of Families. That came out this week.
Well, I only hope he speaks definitively, because he hasn't so far.
You don't like him?
Well, it's not for me to like or dislike. He's our Pope. He's the Vicar of Christ. He has been given a duty to teach and to judge. And so far, I don't see any evidence of him teaching. You know, one of the things Christ said to St. Peter, the first Pope, is, whose sins you forgive, they are forgiven. But more importantly, he said, whose sins you retain, they are retained. The sacrament of confession. That's how it was instituted and given to us. And so every priest has a duty to judge those who come before him, to bring them to cleanse their souls and to start and get the grace. And we have a Pope who put on a T-shirt and said, who am I to judge?
Well, I have a difficult, and not that I begrudge you this, but I have this notion that when we are sort of listening to you there, when we're heading towards the Golden Gates, that you, Tom Jennings, you'll be sort of racing on ahead and I'll be trickling down the line and trying to hang on by my fingertips, and you'll be going in and I'll be going out.
Well, I wouldn't. I would hold that thought because, you know, I have committed my sins. I have to go to confession. But interesting that you talk about that. This is the month of the dead.
November, it
November.
is traditionally
The
within
holy
Catholicism. Yeah.
The forgotten now holy souls.
Yeah.
When I die, I have to make an account of all my transgressions. I don't know yours, you don't know mine, so I'm not in a position to judge your disposition. Only that the sins that are public in front of me. So I'll judge my own sins.
Yeah, yeah.
So as God may perhaps be less harsh on me. But I have to atone for those, and my soul must be cleansed in purgatory.
You believe in purgatory, yeah?
Well, in the book of Maccabees, which has Luther rejected, he tore out 7 books of the Bible. In the book of Maccabees, it says it's a holy and good thing to pray for the dead. Why? Because they need our prayer. And if you're in heaven, you don't need prayer. And if you're in hell, no prayer is sufficient because it's too late. So purgatory, it is a teaching of Holy Mother Church, which is forgotten.
Well, Tom, I, as a fellow human being, as a fellow traveller in our land of Newry and Mourne, I wish you well.
Yeah.
But I think if I was as solidly locked into it as you are, I would have a permanent migraine. It would drive me nuts.
Well,
I don't know. Do you never relax and let
I
it?
do.
Let
You
it
know,
swim
I come
away
back from
you?
my morning walk, and you know, I feel very peaceful. And you know, when I feel most of the days and most peaceful when I come from Mass or at Mass, and it gives me a oneness. I have a solidarity with the saints. I'm at peace when I come out of confession and I receive this, the Blessed Eucharist. I'm at peace with God. That certainly brings no headache, no migraine.
No.
It,
Well,
it brings a
I can
true
understand.
peace.
Yeah.
But you know, maybe I'm expressing it a wee bit too strong here. But
No, it's interesting because my journey causes me no headache,
yes,
and yet I don't do Eucharist and I don't do confession. But yet I'm at ease with the God I believe in. I think the most we can do is agree to differ.
well, yes, we have to get on. I mean, I don't judge my friends I don't choose my friends by what they believe in. I choose them for who they are. But I try to lead a good example.
Yeah, I think that's there for all of us.
So
Tom Jennings, it's good. When is your next Latin Mass?
it'll be on Sunday.
And where does that occur?
It occurs in Bestbrook, out by JT Carpets.
JT Carpets,
I think
right there.
we're out there, and we have a good, strong body of people there.
And you have a priest. Who is your priest?
Well, we have different priests come to us. You know, we
Yeah.
have a Father Francis Geller, we have a Father Wallier from Belgium, we have a Father Bellini from Italy. We have no shortage of priests.
You're coming down with priests.
We are coming down with priests.
Which is okay.
And when they go, there'll be plenty more, and we have plenty of Irish priests too.
God bless you.
You too.
Take
And
your
thank you
care
very
and
much.
good luck to you in what
Okay,
you're
mate.
trying to achieve.
Grand
No
stuff.
bad man this. He brings us good news and we wish you well with it.
Thank you,
So
Rowan.